Children of the world, parents of the world, this is for you. I'm Rowena.
And I'm April. We are best friends and moms to 5 young athletes and sisters to Olympic champions. We have a mission to inspire our kids
and your kids through the stories of champions.
Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion.
Welcome, you guys. Today we are so excited. We have Paige Alms here today. She is an amazing big wave surfer with an incredible bio. She received the XXL Women's Overall Performance Award in 2018 and 2015. She was the 2-time WSL Big Wave World Champion in 2017 and 2018. She was the Piahi Champion in 2017 and 2016, and she was the first woman to ever get barreled at Jaws. Like, how incredible is that? She was born in Canada and moved to Maui at the age of 9. She loves paying it forward to future generations and is an incredible role model for everyone striving to achieve their dreams, which is exactly why we wanted to have her here on this podcast today. Welcome, Paige. We are so happy to have you here today.
Paige, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Oh, so excited to chat with you ladies. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Let's go back to the beginning, when it all started. Do you have a memory of when you first surfed?
My very first surf session I do remember because it was a surf lesson. My mom and I were traveling around Australia when I was 8 years old. For almost 10 months, we traveled the entire country. And we had some family friends there and their kids surfed. And, you know, everyone you bump into on the beach. And as a kid, everyone surfs in Australia. So
except for me.
But I'm sure you have.
I have,
right?
yeah.
When so, you surf. So I remember, I believe I was 8. I might have been 9, and I always say that it's Byron. We were in Byron when I had the lesson, but my mom corrects me, and I can never remember where it was. So, anyways, somewhere in Australia, I saw a bunch of kids surfing, and there was a school, like a surf lesson school, at the beach that we were at. And I just was watching these people and I was like, I can do that. I want to do it. And my mom signed me up for a lesson, and it was with a lady. I'll have to find out. I'm so bad at this. I need to remember people's names and places better. But I remember the feeling and the emotion. But it was a retired pro surfer. She had a surf school there, and I remember the first wave that I stood up on, you know, I was on a big floaty soft top board and I was tiny, but I stood up right away. And I remember being like, oh, I did that. Okay, let's get another one. And I'd always felt really comfortable in the ocean, and I bodyboarded as a kid. You know, you play around in the shore break and drag your bodyboard around. So I'd caught waves before and stood up on my bodyboard. And so it wasn't a completely foreign feeling. It was something that I felt like it was an amazing challenge, and the rest is history. I mean, I rode a bunch of waves and came in and was like, I'm a surfer now. And it wasn't.
Okay. that was my next question. Like, when did you just know, like, this is me, this is going to be my life, I'm a surfer, I'm a surfing champion? Sounds like that day.
Yeah, well, that day I remember just the feeling of like, okay, I can do this, and this is something that I like. It wasn't until we moved to Maui where I knew that I was forever going to surf for the rest of my life. When we moved here and I like officially started surfing, because I had a surf lesson and then maybe I borrowed someone's board here or there as a kid in Australia. But when we moved to Maui, it was like we were going to the beach every day after school. And my mom just loved, you know, the beach lifestyle and going down and getting in the water. And so it was kind of like you know, you bring your bodyboard and kick around in the surf. And then eventually my mom's sister, who lives here on Maui, gave me a board that was under their house. And I basically taught myself how to surf. You know, I felt pretty comfortable with my my skills in the ocean, and I was, you know, staying on the inside and being really safe. And I knew kind of the boundaries of our spot and where not to get sucked out and end up in a bad situation. So I kind of taught myself how to surf, and then of course had help from friends' parents and people down at the beach. You always kind of like help out when you see kids are learning. But it was something that I was drawn to. And as soon as I stood up on a surfboard, it was like every day I just wanted to get better and better. And I knew that I would never stop surfing. Like that was something, I played sports growing up. I played everything growing up, baseball, soccer, anything that was fun. I was really active, but surfing was something that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this the rest of my life for sure.
That's so cool. So then what was the progression from going from that to being like, I'm going to be a big wave surfer? Like, do you remember, was there a defining moment or were you just intrigued and wanted to try it? Or tell us kind of how that ended up happening.
Yeah, the big wave thing it was kind of a natural progression. And I say that because growing up here on Maui, you're kind of surrounded by big surf. I mean, in the wintertime, we consistently have waves well overhead all the time. So, and big to, everyone's big is different. And here, I mean, our waves in the wintertime are consistently bigger than anywhere in, Southern California, let's say, where it doesn't get, well overhead unless it's a really big swell. And that's like normal here in the wintertime. So on the North Shore of Maui, you get to see these swells roll in quite often that are really big. We have one of the best big waves in the world called Jaws that is right down the street from my house. So I think it was something that I was always kind of drawn to, and being, I really started surfing when I was 10 here on Maui. And every year I felt more confident and more comfortable and, kind of eased my way into surfing bigger and bigger waves. And our home break here, Ho'okipa is, there's 3 different breaks. It's Pavils, Middles, and the Point. And as you get better, you can progress over and over. And eventually you're surfing that spot as big as it can break. And then at a certain point, it kind of maxes out. And then we're either heading to the west side or going up to Jaws. And as a teenager, I felt really comfortable in pretty big surf, and I really liked it. And, of course, I was scared when it got really big and it was new and riding bigger boards and going to new spots for sure. It was scary, but it was always something that I really enjoyed. And I loved that feeling of overcoming fears and, even the feeling of being defeated, like just getting your ass handed to you, pardon my swearing, but it's like that feeling is like, it's just exciting. And even to this day, like, you can have the worst session ever, but looking back on it, what you've learned and what you overcame is, that's a part of the journey of surfing and in life. So I feel like surfing's just always kind of it's like a metaphor for everyday life, and the challenges that you overcome in a session and riding waves and the highs and the lows and the friendships and everything that comes with it. Big wave surfing was just it fell into my lap. I was 15 years old, and my mentor shaper at the time really always kind of talked about surfing the outer reefs here on Maui. And at that time, his crew was, it was paddle surfing. And of course, like as a teenager, the toe-in surfing thing was happening here on Maui. And it basically started here and just took off. But my mentor shaper at the time was like old school. And he really loved paddle surfing the outer reef super early in the morning before the wind came up. And he always talked about it. And he always talked about getting me into it. And it was never something that it was like, I'm going to do that one day. Like, that's what I want to do. I'm going to focus 100% on that, because I was so focused on just being a professional surfer and doing the contests and wanting to be a world champion, and surfing these events in smaller waves, like shortboarding. And so the big wave thing was kind of introduced to me. And when I was 15, I got a phone call from him, and he's like, today's the day. And this spot on Maui here that doesn't happen very often, maybe we surf there, once a winter. It's really rare to get the conditions that line up for it, but it's one of the best waves in the world. And he's like, we're going. It's perfect. It's this size. I have a board for you. Get down here. And I remember my mom drove me down and dropped me off with him. And we went out to this lookout to check out the waves. And it was pumping. It was glassy. And it was picture perfect to have your first intro into surfing, like bigger waves. You know, it was probably like 25-foot faces. So like 10 to 12 foot Hawaiian. We double it. It's kind of weird. And I rode a big 9-foot board, which I'd never done before. And it was terrifying. It was like a 15-20 minute paddle out, and it's really sharky. Like this spot is right outside of a water treatment plant. And
you're blowing my mind.
It's a little spooky. But I got 3 waves that day, and that was the defining moment where I knew that I wanted to surf big waves, because the emotion and the feeling that I got from riding those 3 waves that one day, you know, I still remember them to this day, like almost 20 years later. So that was the defining moment, being introduced by a mentor of mine to a passion of his that he knew, and he knew deep down that I was going to be really good at it. And I don't think at that point I knew much about big wave surfing, or if that was something that I wanted to focus on. And he knew that I was going to be good at it. And so it was kind of, it just fell into my lap. He brought me out there, and that was the moment.
Wow. What a cool story of, someone believing in you even before you believed in yourself. And I'm so mind blown right now. So you basically really started surfing at 10. You dabbled a bit in Australia. And then at 15, you're out surfing like 25-foot waves. That's a fast progression. If I don't know anything about surfing, but holy cow, that's impressive. Talk to us, like you've talked to us about the feeling of, you know, that day. And I want to hear more about the fear, like the kind of fears that you face all the time, and what you do to get through them. What are the mindset tricks and tips that our listeners could take for their own and use when they're faced with fears?
Yeah, fear's a funny thing. I grew up raised by a single mom who fear was never really a part of my childhood. You know, she wasn't a worrier. You know, I'd have a really bad bike accident, come home all cut up and scraped and in tears. And she was always really calm and collected and was like, okay, get in the bathtub. We got to scrub these things. And so I grew up raised by my mom in a way that, you know, we didn't really live in fear. So anything was attainable. And if I wanted to put my mind towards something, I was being told that I could do it. And so I was very fortunate. My mom is an amazing woman and person, and I'm just so grateful for the childhood that I had and the way that I think my belief systems, you know, they were instilled in me. So even to this day, like, don't get me wrong, I have fear. We're all human, but I really choose not to live in fear. I feel like it's one of the most powerful emotions, and it can control you and take all of your joy and your spark away. And so when I'm surfing, and especially in life-threatening situations, I try not to focus on the fear and the being scared and the what ifs. Because that's not truly living. That's living in the past or in the future. I really try to hone in on what I've done to get to that point. And when I'm out in a lineup, I truly feel the most calm and present in my life. And that's why I love it so much. And also being okay with not putting too much pressure on myself, because I feel in years past, I used to, I have to go out and I have to do this. And now I go out in these sessions where I'm looking to find very specific waves that I want to ride that will make my soul and my heart feel like a champion, not other people, and not being critiqued on my surfing. I just want to go out and find these waves that give me the feeling that I'm searching for. And so the fear gets pushed aside. And, you know, when you see a 50, 60 foot wave coming at you, don't get me wrong, I'm terrified. It's a very scary feeling. And the repercussions that come from getting caught inside by a wave like that, you know, it can kind of ruin your winter. I mean, I've seen friends drown. It's scary, but really trying to just focus on what you can control and doing what you love. And I feel like, you know, those joys that I get from riding giant, scary waves, I live with those. You know, sometimes they're only like 3 or 5 second long waves. Like, they're so fast, 10-second long wave. And those moments slow down, and you can live off of that joy and that fire that you get from those quick moments for months, you know, and years. Like, I still remember to this day some of my very best waves. And, you know, at the end of those waves or after getting caught inside, you know, looking back on them, you're not looking back like, oh my God, like that was so, you know, I was so scared. It was like, wow, I get fired up. Like, I did that, you know? And yeah, it was scary. And I for sure talk about it with friends. Like, oh my God, that was the scariest thing I've ever done. But you really, like, you live and you learn from those experiences, and they're actually like, just like so exciting, you know? Maybe it's the like living on the edge kind of feeling where, you know, those ultimate highs are just the absolute best.
Well, something that you just mentioned that I actually wanted to talk to you about is that I think is incredible just from, you know, watching you over the years is I know that you're super intuitive, and you just were kind of talking about that and kind of like knowing when to go out, when to surf. And I think that's a really hard thing to do because you can get caught up in like what you said, like doing it for other people or doing it because you think you should or whatever. Like, how do you find that intuition? And is that something that you had to work on, or are you just kind of innately intuitive in general?
Yeah, I guess I probably have a little bit of that in me from who knows where.
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt pretty intuitive, but I think it's living in your truth, and, you know, being okay with saying no is totally fine. But not saying no just because, you know, you're scared or what ifs, or, you know, just saying, hey, it's not my day today. And that is true to you. So you're not going to regret it. And some days I feel like that, you know, it's like, oh, it's more fun to watch my friends, and finding the joy in that, because some days it is just awesome to sit back and let others shine and learn from, you know, especially out in a lineup, you can learn so much from just watching. So I think trusting your intuition is, you know, just living in truth.
Love it. I'll be sending this to my little boys who do extreme stuff. They'll listen to you more than me. I tell them, is it your day? You got to decide, is it your day? I've listened to you talk before about how you use your words when maybe you're trapped under a big wave. And I mean, I know you train to hold your breath, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, what are you telling yourself when you need to just get through something?
I truly believe in positive affirmations, and, you know, I'm guilty of negative thoughts, as we all are, but I think it's really easy if you're conscious of them to quickly turn it around. So in a really bad situation in you know, in the water, if I'm underwater getting thrashed around, I'm telling myself, I got this. I can do this. This is what I've trained for. You're going to come up. You know, telling yourself things that you would want all the people that you love and trust in your life telling to you at that moment. And you need to be that group of people and that support system for yourself, and just remaining calm. So using that positivity and just trying to stay truly present in that moment to be as calm and collected and go from there.
Do you do the same thing before you compete too, as you're going to catch the wave? Or do you have some specific affirmations that you tell yourself? Or is it kind of depend on the competition and the day and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the last contest I did in El Salvador, that was a bit different than a big wave heat. Big wave surfing it just doesn't happen so often. I get to do it a handful of times a year. And if we have a really good winter, it's 10 sessions or something here. Like it's not very many moments that you get to go out and do that. So the big wave competing thing is kind of funny. I just go out like, okay, let's go have fun. This is an opportunity to be at a big wave spot with only 5 other people out in the lineup. So it's a bit different. It's more of, it's still positive, but it's let's go and enjoy this. Where the shortboard stuff, like, I was a couple heats away from qualifying for the Olympics, and that was something, that was the goal. It was to make it as far as I possibly could in this contest to hopefully qualify. So coming up with a strategy before each heat, because the conditions were, changing every half an hour, the waves are completely different. So for sure, it's, going into those contests, I was definitely telling myself, like, I can do this. It's just 2 waves. My surfing is as good, if not better, than most of the people here, and telling myself this. And so when you paddle out, you're kind of letting go of all that talk and just doing. And that's when I truly feel like I surf the best, is when I let go of all those thoughts and everything that you've been, the positive and the negatives and the what ifs, because you're like, okay, what if I don't catch a wave? And just truly trying to like focus on being in the moment and doing your absolute best. And that's all you can really do. So it's similar, but a little bit different, right? Coming up with a strategy, but also telling yourself that let's go out and do this.
And do you have other things that you do besides affirmations? Are you big on visualization or any other things that you feel like really help you when you're competing?
Yeah, I think visualizing, if you want to win something, I mean, every athlete in the world that has won titles or games will tell you that they visualized it. I feel at least everyone that I know that I've talked to about it, really visualizing what you want. Some of my best waves that I've ever ridden, I've ridden them before I physically rode them, which is a really trippy feeling. And it doesn't happen all the time. And those magical moments that happen, like my Jaws barrel, I rode that wave so many times in my mind. And when it actually happened, it happened so fast that I was almost in disbelief. Like I came out of the wave and was just in shock, like, whoa, is this real life? Because I've felt this feeling in my mind, and in my dreams. So for sure, visualization is super important. And I think that, you can manifest anything that you want in your life as long as you're willing to commit to working hard towards it. So visualizing that and then doing everything you can to get there.
Yeah, let's talk about that working hard, because we know that you're good at that. Not every athlete is, but that's one of your strengths. What does it mean to you to work hard? What does it look like to you?
I like the quotes. I mean, that varies on, day to day and the time of the year and all that sort of thing. But, working hard is making sacrifices and doing what you believe you need to get done, working with coaches, putting in time. I mean, surfing is one of those things where you can train in the gym, you can work with coaches, you can video, you can do all these things, but the very best thing for surfing is surfing. Becoming more in tune with the ocean and being able to see the wave, or the way that the water moves and the way that the wind moves with those waves. It's funny, like there's so many things that just become innate over time and you don't even think about them. They're just, it's a part of you and the way that you move with the ocean. But that comes from years and years and years and years of surfing. So, I mean, that's working hard to me, is putting in the time and, setting goals and working to achieve those goals, working to, check the boxes of things that you need to do in order to reach those goals. And, pushing away all the clutter in life and the distractions. If you really want to achieve things, you you know, you have to make decisions to support that. And sometimes it's saying no.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's getting really grindy in the gym. You never know. It's a combination of a little bit of everything, but it's all the good that goes towards your passion.
This is such gold because I think, you know, social media is such a big thing these days, and you can't possibly show all the sacrifices that you've made, all the hours of work in the dark, or like you said, all the times you've said no or yes. It's hard to show that in a reel or a picture. So I love that you said that for our listeners. And I'm curious, you talked about cross training a little bit, but I used to be a swimmer when I was a kid, and we used to love holding our breath, like for as far as we could. That was part of our training. How long can you hold your breath? I know you train that, right? For the big waves.
Yeah. I mean, I should be doing a lot more of that. I usually start to do more breath work in the fall and kind of integrating it into our like physical training, getting prepped for the winter. And that's usually my big wave season. You know, big waves you can chase year round all over the place, but right now I'm not traveling as much. So, and the winters, I mean, Jaws is my main focus, and being as present and ready for the winter season as possible. So breath work comes into that part of my like actual like physical training. I should be doing a lot more of it. I think it's something that I want to tap into more and learn more about. I mean, the longest to answer your question, the longest I've ever held my breath was 4.5 minutes.
What? What?
That was doing a breath hold diving course. So we worked up to that. So it wasn't just 1, 2, 3, go, hold your breath. I don't know. Maybe I could do maybe a minute and a half right now if you asked me to. There are certain exercises that you can do to prepare your body and your lungs and your diaphragm and just everything in your body to get to that point. So I think that was probably after like 3 or 4 different breath holds in a series, and then a recovery, and then you go longer and then you recover. So it was a buildup. That was probably, I don't know, 20 minutes or 30. Probably 20 minutes of like building up to that point to do that. But it was really cool because before I did that course, so I highly suggest if you ever have the opportunity to do a breath hold course, it is just so amazing what the body is capable of. We're sitting in a classroom and the guy's like, the average person that isn't an athlete can hold their breath between 4 and 6 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, okay. The longest I've ever held my breath at that point was like 90 seconds, like a minute and a half. And that was day 2 of the course. I did 4.5 minutes. Like, it was wild. There was like a lady in the class that was doing the course just to learn more about how the body works and the actual biology of what's happening. And she had asthma. So it was more of like to train her mind and to learn about the physiology of what's happening when you're holding your breath and all of that. And she held her breath for 3 minutes. She'd never held her breath longer than 30 seconds in her entire life. So it's pretty incredible what the body can do, but having the tools to learn how to do it, you know, it's not just a 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Face down in the pool.
That's me. Julia will be like, let's go take pictures underwater. And as soon as we get to the place to take the picture, I'm like going back up. She's like, you didn't even wait for me to take a picture. I'm like, I can't hold my breath. Okay. So I love how you're talking about just, you know, the best training to surf is to surf, but has it always been fun, or do you have to sometimes like kind of make yourself go? Cause I think that's sometimes what people will ask. They're like, well, does it mean I always have to love it? But I feel like, you know, what's it been like for you? Have you always loved going out there, or have you had to kind of, you know, talk yourself into going sometimes?
Oh, I mean, I've been surfing for 24 years now, I guess. And for sure, I've gone through phases where I didn't like it. I mean, yeah, there's so many variables in surfing too. And I'm bored surfing certain waves, you know, I'm like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? But being in the ocean is the most magical thing there is, whether it's a 5-minute quick dip in the middle of my day to just kind of reset and recalibrate and okay, now I can take on the world again. Sometimes I go out in surf sessions with that in mind. You know, I'm going out to get wet, and I'm going out to get some sun. I'm going to do a 45-minute session and then I'm going to carry on with my day. If I went out every surf session thinking that I have to rip and this is my focus, I don't think it would be fun. So, I mean, there's definitely times where I'm just so in love with surfing and so in tune and having a great time. And then there's times where I'm like, God, all these people out in the water, like this isn't fun anymore. So it's riding waves and like metaphorically, but it's up and down. And I just truly love the ocean, and my way of, expressing myself in the ocean is through surfing. So I absolutely love riding waves from 1 foot, knee high, ankle slop, or not even breaking waves on a foil, all the way up to giant surf. And I think the lifestyle of surfing is just the absolute best thing in the world, fresh air, salt water, and being out in the sun and in nature. It's the absolute best.
You sold me. Sold.
Is it too late for us, Rowie? Are we too old?
I don't know. I'll keep trying. But we're going to have a lot of listeners who haven't found their thing yet. They're in maybe soccer now or gymnastics. And I hope that we get some people listening who go out and try to surf, because I actually think it's hilarious right now. We've got a Canadian surfer and an Australian skier. It's like we chose the hardest path from where we came from to do what we did. But I listen to you talk and I watch you, and I think about the surfing lifestyle that you said, and it's true. You will be doing this till you can't walk, I bet. I mean, how beautiful is that?
Yeah, there aren't very many things that you can do in the world that you can do, from the day that you're born until the day that you die. And I'm sure like when when you're really old and it becomes really challenging, but I'll still be getting in the ocean every day. And it's a pretty magical thing, but for sure, surfing isn't for everyone, and it's my passion and it's what makes me feel so good. And I think it's really important for people to find that thing that makes them feel so good. And it doesn't have to be a sport. Although I think moving your body and being outside is the absolute best thing that you can do. But it doesn't have to be that. It's finding something that you truly care about and that you love and that fulfills you. And, that feeling of just being stoked and excited about something. And it can be the smallest of things. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, now I'm an athlete. Like it can be something, I truly find so much joy in playing in my garden and, growing plants. Like, I'm like, this is the most amazing thing ever. Like, check out these beans that I'm growing. So it's just finding something that you really love and that brings you joy. And that's different for everyone.
Well, before we go, we want to ask you, what does being a champion mean to you?
Such a tough one. I mean, I think being a champion is different for everyone, and my views and feelings about that change depending on what we're talking about, right? But like truthfully for me, like for myself to feel like a champion, it's living in my truth and doing things that I believe in and living my life that way and with passion and with integrity. And I feel like a champion when I'm living that.
I can tell that your life speaks that, Paige. Aside from all your surfing prowess, just you're a very inspiring human, just how you think, how you talk. I mean, your life, it's not the ordinary path. And we are so grateful that you would take your time to just, share your spirit. That's what I feel coming through when I loved what you said about being a champion. That sounded like truth to me from you. Like that was pure. And I know there's going to be some listeners out there who what you've said today sparks something inside. There are so many gold nuggets. We'll do the athlete breakdown in case you missed them because we got them. But thank you for joining us, Paige.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Awesome to see you also on video.
You're the best.
Okay, I enjoyed that so much. What an authentic soul. There were so many beautiful tips and tricks in there and just life philosophies. We're going to go over everything in a little more detail in our athlete breakdown on Thursday. Join us to becoming the best you can.